The reality is most people do, and if the cover entices them, they'll want to look inside. The next thing we want to do is take a look inside the book. Make sure your paper is a nice bright white. It makes a clear contrast in the book, and it makes the reading easier on the eyes. Notice also the font type. Some people try to save money by printing in a smaller font. That way you can print a book in fewer pages, but it makes it harder to read. You take a book like this one here, and it's printed on what's commonly called newsprint. It's a yellowish paper, and the writing doesn't stick out well. And you notice the font size is very small. It's just not a book that people will typically want to read. Another thing is you want to make sure the book opens easily. Some books, like this one, will spring back. You try to open it, it shuts on you. It won't stay open as you read it. But if you take a book with a good binding, it'll open up easier. All of these things make a book easier to read and more likely that somebody will read them. Now, most importantly, whatever book you're sharing, whatever person you're sharing with, you want to ask the guidance of the Holy Spirit to direct you in selecting the right book for the right person at the right time. And now that you're equipped with the right tools, you can join us to reach the world one book at a time.
Welcome back to Prophecy Now. In what was described as a revival rather than a political rally, conservative talk show host Glenn Beck urged the large crowds in Washington, D.C. to turn back to God and return America to the values on which it was founded. His Restoring Honor event packed the National Mall in Washington, D.C. on Saturday, August 28. Beck struck a spiritual tone throughout the day, saying his role was to wake America up to the backsliding of principles, values, and most importantly, faith. Earlier, he said God dropped a giant sandbag on his head to push him to organize the event. Tea Party activists from across the country attended the event. Speakers included former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin, who honored veterans. Another speaker was Alveda King, the niece of Martin Luther King Jr. Rally organizers said Saturday's event was not political and asked participants not to carry signs, unlike past Tea Party demonstrations. The atmosphere was almost festival-like, and participants were careful to say, "We're not angry." Conservative Christians have long been attempting to fuse Christian teaching with patriotism and politics in America. As America suffers decline in economy and morals, calls for restoring America's Christian heritage are likely to become increasingly strident. To most people, turning America back to God means that America needs to enact laws aligned with the Ten Commandments, including the Sabbath commandment. According to prophecy, these would include Sunday worship laws because most people think that the Sabbath is now changed to Sunday. The push is on for Sunday laws to be upgraded in Europe. The Roman Catholic Church wants Sunday observance enshrined in EU law. Presently, throughout the European Union, Sunday laws, known as Sunday closing laws, which limits shopping on Sundays to a few select Sundays each year, except in designated tourist areas. Now the Vatican and certain Protestant churches and trade unions want to increase the level of Sunday laws and make them Sunday rest laws. The arguments for a uniform day of rest in Europe for the moment are mostly secular. They include health of workers, family time, the economy, and social cohesion. In late 2008, the Roman Catholic Commission of the Bishops' Conferences of the European Union joined together with the Evangelical Church of Germany and other religious organizations to lobby for an amendment to the European Working Time Directive, which is the law that governs workers in Europe. They were attempting to amend that legislation to require that time off from work shall in principle include Sunday. They failed to get enough support for the amendment, and in early 2009 there was another attempt by the Catholic bishops, the Protestant Church in Germany, and the Church of England to get a declaration adopted by the European Parliament, supporting the same wording as proposed by the Working Time Directive. A declaration has no force of law. It is a recommendation to the nation-states of Europe, but it does provide leverage, which can be used to pressure individual nations to enact similar Sunday laws. Again, the attempt failed by not getting enough signatories. But in 2010, a huge campaign to promote Sunday rest laws is in full swing. On March 24, for instance, advocates for a free Sunday held a conference in Europe to promote a campaign to press for increased legislation at the level of the European Parliament. The first European conference for a work-free Sunday involved 72 organizations, including 13 churches, 24 civil organizations, and 35 trade unions from all EU member states, including the Jesuit European Office. The conference was designed to launch the current campaign for a work-free Sunday and eventually pressure the European Parliament to enact stricter Sunday protection laws. Martin Kassler, a German member of the European Parliament, launched the very first ever citizens' petition of the European Union to request that Sunday be declared a day for family and rest. The Free Sunday movement is seeking 1 million signatures of European citizens from a significant number of member states to support a petition to be presented to Parliament asking for Sunday rest laws. The European Parliament is willing to consider requests of that magnitude from the people. It remains to be seen how much traction the Free Sunday campaign in Europe will develop or how long it will take. Prophecy tells us that it will certainly become a reality. But the work of protecting Sunday as a day of rest is operating on other fronts as well. For instance, on December 1, 2009, the German High Court in Karlsruhe handed down a decision in favor of the Catholic Church and other churches and trade unions who had taken the city of Berlin to court in an effort to stop the city from liberalizing Sunday shopping. Also, under pressure from the Catholic Church, the National Parliament of Croatia adopted laws restricting shopping on Sunday twice, once in 2004 and once in 2008. Both times, the Constitutional Court struck down the shopping ban as unconstitutional. More recently, the Commission for Pastoral Activities Among Workers in Malta is arguing in favor of Sunday rest. In a statement, the Commission said everyone had a right to rest on Sunday and a duty to cultivate this heritage. Historically, it was a common practice for workers to have a rest day, and this right was protected by law. In Malta, this day was Sunday. The Roman Catholic Church is pressing ahead with its agenda to increase Sunday laws in Europe, sometimes with success and sometimes with defeat. They will not likely stop pressing for Sunday rest laws until they get them. Though they are using secular arguments, the underlying purpose is to establish religious unity around Sunday rest. Sunday rest laws clearly lay the foundation for Sunday worship laws. And that concludes this edition of Prophecy Now. I'm Hal Mayer, reminding you to keep the faith.
Let's take a trip through Remnant Publications and see how a book is made. We begin in the pre-press room. Computer technician Tim Yeager begins by loading a large sheet of emulsion-coated aluminum into the developing machine. Suction cups pull the aluminum sheet into the machine. Then a special laser head etches the emulsion side of the aluminum, leaving behind only what's needed for printing. It comes off the roller, and a lifting rack brings the exposed sheet onto the other side, where special rollers guide it into the developing stage. Chemicals wash away what the laser exposed. Out comes a plate ready to be used on the printing press. Nate Reed, the pressman, loads the plate into the two-color press. Ink is then applied to the print rollers. A thin coating of water helps the ink not to stick to the printing plate where it's not supposed to. Several suction cups and a pulling mechanism keep the paper flowing into the press. This press can print out 7,000 sheets per hour. This press is called a two-color offset press, and the printed sheets are called signatures. From the press, the signatures are placed on the folding machine, where they go through a series of slots. Then they get folded in several ways. Watching this machine is really cool. The next stop takes us to the saddle stitcher. This machine starts by placing the folded signatures together on top of each other. As they continue down the line, the book covers are dropped on, and the next step is where the high-speed stapler stitches the cover and the pages all together. After being stapled, they continue down the feeder belt where they go through the chopper. There, the excess paper gets trimmed and cut off. Another process for bigger books is the binder, but before we get there, we need to cut some covers down to size. Now that's sharp! The first stage of the binder trims the pages and puts hot melted glue on the spine. Rollers help the glue to go on evenly. The cover gets stuck to the back. Then they are folded and pressed into the spine. This whole process is done in less than 10 seconds per book. Now that's impressive. After a short trip on the conveyor belt, they come to the last stage. This machine is my favorite. It's called the 3-knife cutter. It's similar to the chopper at the saddle stitcher, but you can really see what this one is doing. After getting cut and trimmed, the books are done and ready to be shipped. Now you have an inside look at how books are made at Remnant Publications.
If you'd like to contact Hal, which I'm sure that you will, you can get a hold of him on the website at www.ktfministry.org. That's for Keep the Faith Ministry, ktfministry.org. Or give us a call at Remnant Publications at 1-800-423-1319. Well, that's all the time we have for today on Bible Alive. And remember, you too can have a better way of life. And what? Don't put it off.
By working together, 1.7 million copies of The Passion of Love were distributed around the country, resulting in an unprecedented partnership with Walmart that led to over 1,000 Bible studies. By working together, over 6 million copies of the 10 Commandments Twice Removed were shared around the world, resulting in more than 20 churches now keeping the Bible Sabbath. By working together, we have shipped almost 1 million Bibles to spiritually thirsty Christians in Africa, touching the lives of 20 million people for Christ. Working together is what allows Remnant Publications to spread truth-filled books around the world to hasten the Lord's coming. Will you join us in that mission? Will you help us reach the world for Jesus, one book at a time?